Introduction. What if you don't have to live like this forever? Imagine waking up before the alarm goes off. Your eyes open, and before your feet even touch the floor, your mind is already running. You remember the conversation you had yesterday and wonder if you said the wrong thing. You think about everything waiting for you today. Bills, responsibilities, deadlines, relationships, the future. Suddenly, your chest feels tight. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your heart starts racing, even though nothing dangerous is happening. You tell yourself to calm down, but your mind doesn't listen. If this feels familiar, I want you to know something before we go any further. You are not alone. Millions of people live this way every single day. On the outside, they smile, go to work, take care of their families, and do everything they're supposed to do. But inside, they're exhausted. Every day feels like they're carrying an invisible backpack filled with fear, painful memories, self-doubt, and constant worry. The hardest part is that many people don't even know why they feel this way. Maybe you've told yourself, "I should be over this by now." Maybe you've wondered why a small disagreement leaves you shaken for hours. Why certain places or words instantly make you feel uneasy. Why trusting people feels so difficult. Why relaxing feels almost impossible. Or why your mind seems determined to replay painful moments over and over again, even when all you want is peace. If you've ever asked yourself those questions, this audiobook was made for you. Trauma and anxiety have a way of convincing us that we'll always feel this way. They whisper that we're broken, damaged, or somehow different from everyone else. They make us believe that peace belongs to other people, not us. But those whispers are lying. The truth is something much more hopeful. Your mind has been trying to protect you. Think of it like a smoke alarm in your home. A smoke alarm is designed to save your life. When there's real danger, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. But imagine if that alarm became so sensitive that it went off every time you made toast or boiled water. Suddenly, something meant to protect you becomes a constant source of stress. That's what trauma and anxiety often do. They turn your brain into a smoke alarm that's working overtime. It keeps searching for danger long after the danger has passed. It reacts to situations that aren't truly threatening because somewhere along the way, it learned that the world wasn't always safe. That doesn't mean your brain is broken. It means it adapted. And here's the encouraging part. What has been learned can also be relearned. For years, scientists believed the brain stopped changing after childhood. Today, we know something remarkable. The brain continues to grow, adapt, and form new pathways throughout life. Every healthy habit, every calm breath, every kind thought toward yourself, every small decision to keep moving forward is helping your brain build new patterns. Healing isn't magic. It isn't instant. It isn't a straight road. Some days you'll feel like you're making incredible progress. Other days it may seem as if you've gone backward. That's completely normal. Healing often looks less like climbing a ladder and more like walking up a winding mountain trail. There are curves. There are steep places. There are moments when the summit disappears behind the trees. But if you keep walking, you're still getting closer to the top. One step, then another. Eventually, you look back and realize you've come farther than you ever imagined. Throughout this audiobook, we're not going to chase perfection. We're going to pursue progress. You'll discover what trauma really is and why it affects people in so many different ways. You'll learn why anxiety isn't your enemy, even though it feels overwhelming. We'll uncover the hidden beliefs that emotional pain often leaves behind and explore practical, everyday ways to retrain your mind, calm your nervous system, and build habits that support lasting peace. Most importantly, you'll begin to understand something many people never hear. Your past may explain you. It does not have to define you. No matter what you've been through, your story is still being written. The chapters ahead won't ask you to pretend your pain never happened. They won't promise overnight transformation or offer unrealistic shortcuts. Instead, they'll give you something much more valuable: understanding, practical tools, gentle encouragement, and a roadmap toward emotional freedom. As you listen, I encourage you to be patient with yourself. Some ideas may stir emotions you've kept buried for a long time. That's okay. You don't have to rush. You don't have to force anything. Simply stay curious. Listen with an open heart. Take what helps you and allow yourself the grace to grow one day at a time. Remember this whenever doubt creeps in. You are not weak because you've been hurt. You are not broken because you've struggled. You are not beyond healing because your journey has been difficult. In fact, the very fact that you're here, listening, searching, hoping, tells me something important. A part of you still believes life can be better. Hold on to that part. Protect it. Feed it. Because hope is often where healing begins. And by the time you reach the end of this audiobook, my hope is that you'll not only understand why your mind has been carrying so much weight, but you'll also have the confidence to begin laying that weight down, one piece at a time. Take a deep breath. This isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your healing. Chapter 1. The Invisible Wounds We Carry. Have you ever looked around at other people and wondered how they seem to have everything together while you're quietly fighting a battle no one else can see? Maybe you've smiled through conversations while your mind was racing. Maybe you've laughed with friends even though you felt completely drained inside. Maybe you've told people, "I'm fine," simply because explaining how you really felt seemed impossible. If that's you, I want to begin this chapter with one simple truth. Invisible pain is still real pain. Just because a wound can't be seen doesn't mean it isn't affecting every part of your life. Imagine someone breaking their leg. The injury is obvious. People see the cast. They ask if you're okay. They offer to help. They understand why you can't run or climb stairs. Now imagine an emotional injury. No cast. No bandage. No visible scars. Yet every thought hurts. Every relationship feels uncertain. Every challenge seems heavier than it should. People can't see it, so they assume everything is fine. Over time, you may even begin believing that yourself. You tell yourself to just get over it. You compare yourself to people who seem stronger. You wonder why moving forward feels so difficult. But healing doesn't begin by pretending the pain isn't there. It begins by recognizing it. Trauma isn't always one big event. When people hear the word trauma, they often think of something dramatic. A terrible accident. A violent attack. A natural disaster. A war. Those experiences absolutely can cause trauma. But trauma isn't defined only by what happened. It's also defined by how your mind and body experienced what happened. Two people can live through the exact same situation and respond completely differently. One may recover quickly, while the other continues carrying emotional pain for years. That doesn't make one person stronger or weaker. It simply reminds us that every nervous system is unique. Sometimes trauma arrives like a lightning strike. Other times, it falls like rain. Not enough to flood you in one day, but enough, over months or years, to slowly wear away the ground beneath your feet. That's why many people live with trauma without ever calling it trauma. The quiet forms of trauma. Think back to childhood for a moment. Not because everything begins there, but because many of our earliest beliefs about ourselves do. Perhaps you grew up in a home where people rarely expressed love. Maybe no one hugged you. No one said they were proud of you. Your basic needs were met, but your emotional needs were ignored. You learned that your feelings didn't matter. Or maybe your home was unpredictable. Some days were peaceful. Other days, you never knew what mood someone would be in. You became an expert at reading facial expressions. You learned to stay quiet. You learned to avoid conflict. You learned that safety depended on making yourself small. Perhaps you experienced bullying at school. Children laughed at your appearance. They mocked your voice. They excluded you from friendships. Years later, you still hesitate before speaking up because somewhere inside, a younger version of you expects rejection. Maybe your heart was broken by someone you trusted. A partner cheated. A friend betrayed you. A parent abandoned you. A promise was broken. The event ended, but the fear remained. Every new relationship became harder because your heart kept asking one question: what if it happens again? These experiences may not leave visible scars, but they leave emotional fingerprints. And those fingerprints often shape the way we see ourselves and the world. Survival is a remarkable teacher. Here's something many people never realize. Your mind has been trying to protect you all along. Imagine touching a hot stove as a child. It hurts. Your brain remembers. The next time you see a hot stove, you're careful. That's healthy learning. Emotional pain works in much the same way. If speaking up once led to humiliation, your brain may decide that staying silent is safer. If trusting someone ended in betrayal, your brain may convince you that keeping people at a distance is the best way to avoid future pain. If making mistakes brought harsh criticism, perfectionism can begin to feel like protection. The problem is that survival strategies often outlive the danger that created them. It's like carrying an umbrella every single day because it rained once. At first, it made sense. Eventually, it becomes unnecessary weight. Many of the habits you criticize yourself for today were once your mind's best attempt to keep you safe. That's an important realization, because it's hard to hate yourself when you begin to understand yourself. Signs you may be carrying unhealed trauma. Trauma doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides behind everyday behaviors that seem completely normal. You may constantly apologize, even when you've done nothing wrong. You may feel responsible for everyone else's happiness. You may struggle to relax because your mind is always preparing for the next problem. You might overthink simple conversations for hours afterward. You replay what you said. You wonder whether someone misunderstood you. You imagine the worst possible outcome. Maybe you're constantly busy. Not because you enjoy being busy, but because slowing down means facing thoughts you've been avoiding. Or perhaps you find yourself emotionally numb. Nothing excites you anymore. Nothing surprises you. You simply move through life on autopilot. Some people become perfectionists. Others become people pleasers. Some isolate themselves. Others surround themselves with constant noise because silence feels uncomfortable. Different behaviors. The same route. A nervous system trying to stay safe. The cost of carrying invisible wounds. Unhealed trauma doesn't stay neatly tucked away in the past. It has a way of showing up everywhere. It affects the way you love, the way you trust, the way you work, the way you parent, the way you respond to criticism, even the way you speak to yourself. Imagine driving a car with the parking brake partially engaged. The car still moves, but everything requires more effort. The engine works harder. Fuel disappears faster. The ride feels strained. That's what emotional wounds often do. You can still build a career, raise a family, achieve goals, smile in photographs, but underneath it all, you're working much harder than you should have to. You aren't lazy. You aren't weak. You're carrying extra weight. A story that might sound familiar. Picture a woman named Sarah. She's successful, reliable, kind. Everyone describes her as calm. Yet every night, she lies awake replaying conversations. If someone doesn't reply to her message quickly, she assumes they're angry. If her boss asks to speak with her, she immediately imagines losing her job. She says yes to every request because disappointing people feels unbearable. From the outside, Sarah seems confident. Inside, she's exhausted. After years of therapy, she realizes something surprising. As a child, love often depended on good behavior. Mistakes brought criticism. Affection had to be earned. Without realizing it, Sarah spent decades trying to earn acceptance from everyone around her. The little girl inside her never truly believed she was enough. Her anxiety wasn't random. It had a history. Once she understood that history, healing finally began. Maybe your story is different. Or maybe parts of Sarah's story feel strangely familiar. Either way, understanding where your patterns come from isn't about blaming the past. It's about making sense of the present. Awareness changes everything. Imagine trying to pull weeds in a garden. If you only cut off the leaves, they grow back. To truly remove them, you have to reach the roots. Healing works the same way. Many people spend years fighting symptoms. They try to stop overthinking, force confidence, ignore fear, suppress emotions. Yet nothing seems to last because the roots remain untouched. Awareness helps you find those roots. Not so you can stay stuck in the past, but so you can stop repeating it. When you understand why your mind reacts the way it does, something remarkable happens. You stop seeing yourself as the enemy. You begin treating yourself with compassion instead of criticism. That shift alone can change everything. You are more than what happened to you. If there's one message I hope you carry with you after this chapter, it's this. What happened to you matters. But it is not the whole story. Your experiences have influenced you. They have shaped certain habits, fears, and beliefs. But they have not determined your destiny. Think about a tree growing on a windy hillside. Year after year, the wind bends it in one direction. Its trunk twists. Its branches lean. Yet every spring, new leaves still appear. The tree continues to grow. Not perfectly, but beautifully. You are much the same. Life may have bent you. It may have left marks that no one else can see. But you are still capable of growing. Still capable of loving. Still capable of finding peace. Still capable of becoming someone who feels safe inside their own mind. The first step is simply this. See the wound. Name it. Stop pretending it isn't there. Because you cannot heal what you refuse to recognize. And now that we've begun recognizing those invisible wounds, the next question naturally follows. If trauma leaves us carrying so much fear, why does anxiety seem determined to keep us trapped long after the danger is gone? That's exactly what we'll explore in the next chapter. Chapter 2. Why anxiety isn't your enemy. Let's start with a question. Have you ever been scared of something that wasn't actually happening? Maybe your phone rang late at night, and before you answered, your mind had already imagined the worst. Maybe someone you care about replied with a short text, and suddenly you were convinced they were upset with you. Or perhaps you lay awake at 2 in the morning, replaying conversations from years ago, worrying about things that never happened. If so, you're not strange. You're human. And if you've experienced trauma, there's an even deeper reason your mind reacts this way. Many people see anxiety as an enemy. They fight it, hate it, and wish it would disappear forever. That's understandable. Anxiety can be exhausting. It steals sleep. It steals peace. It steals joy from moments that should feel safe. But what if I told you that anxiety isn't trying to destroy you? What if it's actually trying to protect you? That idea might sound strange at first, especially if anxiety has made your life feel smaller. But stay with me. Once you understand what's happening inside your brain and body, you'll stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking a much better question. What is my mind trying to protect me from? That question changes everything. Your brain was designed to keep you alive. Imagine you're walking through a forest thousands of years ago. You hear a loud rustling in the bushes. You don't stop to analyze it. You don't pull out a notebook and make a list of possibilities. Your body reacts instantly. Your heart starts pounding. Your muscles tighten. Your breathing speeds up. Your senses become sharper. Within seconds, you're ready to run, fight, or hide. If there really is a wild animal in those bushes, those reactions could save your life. Your brain doesn't wait for certainty. It chooses survival. That's exactly how the human brain was designed. The problem is that your brain hasn't changed nearly as fast as the world around you. Today, most of us aren't running from predators. We're dealing with emails, deadlines, difficult conversations, financial pressure, social media, and emotional memories. Yet the same ancient alarm system is still running in the background. It doesn't always know the difference between a real physical threat and an emotional one. To your nervous system, rejection can feel dangerous. Failure can feel dangerous. Conflict can feel dangerous. Being judged can feel dangerous. That's why anxiety feels so real. Because, to your brain, it is. Meet your internal smoke alarm. Think back to the smoke alarm we mentioned earlier. A smoke alarm has one job: protect the house. It doesn't stop to ask whether the smoke comes from a dangerous fire or a piece of burnt toast. It simply reacts. Your brain works in much the same way. When you've experienced trauma, your internal alarm becomes more sensitive. Instead of waiting for obvious danger, it starts looking for even the smallest signs that something might go wrong. A change in someone's tone of voice. An unexpected phone call. Silence after sending a message. Walking into a crowded room. Hearing criticism. Seeing someone who reminds you of a painful memory. To someone else, these moments might feel ordinary. To your nervous system, they can feel like the beginning of another storm. It's not because you're weak. It's because your alarm has learned to expect danger. The 4 survival responses. Most people have heard of the fight or flight response. But there are actually 4 common survival responses. Understanding them can help you recognize your own patterns with compassion instead of judgment. Fight. Some people respond to fear with anger. They become defensive, quick-tempered, controlling. Not because they're bad people, but because anger creates the illusion of safety. If they stay in control, maybe they won't get hurt again. Flight. Others stay constantly busy. They work longer hours. They fill every minute with activity. They can't sit still. Rest feels uncomfortable because slowing down allows painful thoughts to catch up. Their body is always running, even when they're standing still. Freeze. Some people shut down completely. Making decisions feels impossible. They procrastinate. They feel stuck. Their mind goes blank under pressure. It's like pressing the pause button on life. Freeze isn't laziness. It's the nervous system trying to survive. Phone. This response surprises many people. Instead of fighting or running, some people try to stay safe by pleasing everyone around them. They struggle to say no. They avoid conflict at all costs. They apologize constantly. They ignore their own needs to keep others happy. Deep down, they're afraid that disagreement will lead to rejection or abandonment. Do any of these sound familiar? You might recognize yourself in one. Or several. That's normal. Most people don't fit neatly into a single category. Why anxiety feels physical. One of the scariest things about anxiety is how physical it feels. Your heart races. Your hands sweat. Your stomach tightens. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your chest feels heavy. Sometimes you even feel dizzy. You might think something must be seriously wrong. But often, these sensations are simply your body's emergency system preparing you for action. Imagine pressing the accelerator in your car while it's parked in the driveway. The engine revs loudly. Fuel burns. The car shakes. Yet it doesn't actually go anywhere. That's what chronic anxiety often feels like. Your body is preparing to escape danger. But there's nowhere to run. The energy stays trapped inside you. No wonder you feel exhausted. Your body has been running a marathon while sitting perfectly still. The stories anxiety tells. Anxiety rarely speaks in facts. It speaks in possibilities. What if something goes wrong? What if I embarrass myself? What if they don't like me? What if I fail? What if I never get better? Notice the pattern. What if? Anxiety loves unfinished stories. It fills in the blanks with fear because fear once helped you survive. Imagine looking through a pair of scratched glasses. Everything appears distorted. The world hasn't changed. Your lens has. Trauma and anxiety create a similar lens. They convince you that danger is everywhere. Not because danger is everywhere, but because your brain remembers the times it was. A story about David. David had lived with anxiety for nearly 20 years. He avoided speaking in meetings. He rarely traveled. He checked the locks on his doors several times before bed. He worried constantly about his family. One day, during a counseling session, he was asked a simple question. When did you first remember feeling unsafe? He closed his eyes. Almost immediately, a memory surfaced. As a child, his father would explode with anger without warning. One moment the house was peaceful. The next, everyone was walking on eggshells. David learned to stay alert. He listened carefully for footsteps. He watched facial expressions. He studied people's moods. Those habits helped him survive childhood. The problem was that his nervous system never realized childhood had ended. Even as an adult, his brain stayed on guard. Once David understood this, he stopped blaming himself. Instead of saying, "I'm just an anxious person," he began saying, "My nervous system learned to expect danger." That small change opened the door to healing. The difference between fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety are closely related, but they're not exactly the same. Fear responds to something happening right now. If a car suddenly swerves toward you, fear tells you to jump out of the way. That's healthy. Anxiety often responds to something that might happen someday. It lives in the future. It imagines disasters before they arrive. Sometimes those disasters never come. Yet your body experiences them as if they already have. That's why anxiety can be so draining. You're fighting battles that exist only in your imagination. You don't have to believe every thought. Here's one of the most freeing truths you'll ever learn. A thought is not a fact. Read that again. A thought is not a fact. Your mind may say, "You're going to fail." It doesn't mean you will. It may whisper, "Nobody cares about you." That doesn't make it true. It may insist, "You'll never heal." But anxiety is a poor fortune teller. Imagine sitting beside a river. Leaves float past on the water. Some are green. Some are brown. Some spin in circles before drifting away. Your thoughts are much like those leaves. You don't have to jump into the river and chase every single one. You can simply notice them, watch them pass, and let them go. That takes practice. But it is one of the most powerful skills you'll ever develop. The good news: if anxiety is something your brain learned, it can also learn something new. Your nervous system is not trapped forever. It can become calmer. It can become stronger. It can learn that the danger has passed. This won't happen overnight. There will be days when old fears return. There will be moments when your alarm still sounds. That's okay. Healing isn't about never feeling anxious again. It's about teaching your mind that it doesn't have to stay on high alert all the time. And that brings us to another important discovery. Trauma doesn't just change how your body reacts. It also changes the stories you tell yourself. Stories about your worth, your safety, your future. In the next chapter, we'll uncover those hidden stories, the quiet lies trauma plants deep within the heart, and more importantly, how you can begin replacing them with truth. Chapter 3. The lies trauma teaches you. Imagine planting a tiny seed in a garden. At first, it doesn't look like much. You can barely see it beneath the soil. But give it enough time, enough water, and enough sunlight, and it grows into something much bigger. Beliefs work the same way. Every experience you have plants a seed. Some seeds grow into healthy beliefs. I am loved. I can learn from my mistakes. The world is full of opportunities. But painful experiences often plant different kinds of seeds. I'll never be enough. I can't trust anyone. I'm always going to fail. I have to earn love. These beliefs usually don't appear overnight. They grow quietly, often without us realizing they're there. Years later, they begin shaping the way we think, the choices we make, and the lives we build. The strange part is this. Most people don't question these beliefs. They assume they're simply facts. But they aren't facts. They're stories. And stories can be rewritten. The lens through which you see the world. Picture two people standing outside on the same rainy afternoon. One smiles and says, "The rain will make everything green." The other sighs and says, "What a miserable day." The weather hasn't changed. Only the way each person sees it. Trauma works like a pair of invisible glasses. Once you've worn them for a long time, you forget you're even wearing them. Every experience passes through that lens. A friend forgets to return your call. Instead of thinking, "They're probably busy," you immediately wonder, "Did I do something wrong?" Your boss asks to see you after lunch. Instead of assuming it's a routine conversation, your mind whispers, "I'm about to lose my job." Someone compliments you. Instead of accepting it, you think, "They're just being nice." The event isn't creating the pain. The belief attached to the event is. That's why two people can experience the same situation and respond completely differently. Their beliefs shape their reality. Lie number 1. I'm not good enough. This may be the most common lie trauma teaches. It doesn't always use those exact words. Sometimes it sounds like this. I should be doing more. I'm behind everyone else. I'll never measure up. If people really knew me, they wouldn't like me. This belief often begins in childhood. Maybe your achievements were never enough. You brought home an A on a test, and instead of hearing, "Great job," someone asked, "Why wasn't it an A+?" Maybe love felt conditional. You were praised when you performed well but ignored when you struggled. Perhaps you were constantly compared to siblings, classmates, or friends. Over time, your mind reached a painful conclusion. I have to earn my worth. The problem is that once you believe you're not enough, no achievement ever feels like enough. You get the promotion. Then you worry about losing it. You buy the house. Then you compare it to someone else's. You reach one goal, only to feel empty because your value was never supposed to come from accomplishments in the first place. Worth isn't something you earn. It's something you already have. Lie number 2. The world is never safe. If you've lived through betrayal, abuse, neglect, or loss, your brain naturally becomes cautious. Again, that's not weakness. It's survival. But survival can slowly become a prison. You stop trusting people. You avoid new opportunities. You expect disappointment before it happens. You assume good things won't last. Imagine living in a house where the burglar alarm goes off every single night. Eventually, even peaceful evenings begin to feel dangerous. That's what this belief does. It convinces you that safety is always temporary. So you stay guarded. Not because danger is everywhere, but because your heart remembers when it was. Lie number 3. If I make a mistake, I'll be rejected. Perfectionism often looks impressive from the outside. People admire hardworking individuals. They praise attention to detail. They celebrate high standards. But underneath perfectionism is often fear. Not excellence. Fear. Fear of criticism. Fear of embarrassment. Fear of not being accepted. You spend hours rewriting emails. You replay conversations in your mind. You avoid trying new things because you might fail. Here's the irony. Perfection isn't protecting you. It's exhausting you. Nobody grows without making mistakes. Every successful person you've ever admired has failed more times than most people realize. Mistakes aren't evidence that you're inadequate. They're evidence that you're learning. Lie number 4. I have to keep everyone happy. Have you ever agreed to something you didn't want to do simply because saying no made you feel guilty? Have you smiled when you really wanted to cry? Have you apologized just to end an argument, even when you weren't at fault? If so, you're not alone. Many people who grew up in emotionally unpredictable environments became experts at reading other people's moods. Keeping everyone happy felt like staying safe. As children, that strategy may have helped. As adults, it often leads to burnout. You become so focused on meeting everyone else's needs that you forget your own. Healthy relationships require kindness. They do not require self-abandonment. Learning to say no isn't selfish. Sometimes it's the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and for the people around you. Lie number 5. I'll never change. This is one of trauma's favorite lies. It points to your past and says, see, this is who you've always been. It reminds you of every setback, every panic attack, every bad decision, every painful memory. Then it quietly concludes, nothing will ever be different. But history is full of people who proved that belief wrong. People who overcame addiction. People who rebuilt their lives after unimaginable loss. People who learned to trust again after betrayal. People who found peace after years of anxiety. The past explains where you've been. It doesn't decide where you're going. How these lies affect everyday life. The dangerous thing about false beliefs is that they rarely stay inside your head. They influence your actions. If you believe you're not good enough, you may never apply for the opportunity you've dreamed about. If you believe everyone will leave you, you may push people away before they have the chance to disappoint you. If you believe failure defines you, you'll avoid challenges that could help you grow. Eventually, your life begins to match your beliefs. Not because the beliefs are true, but because they quietly shape your choices. It's like using the wrong address in a GPS. The system works perfectly. It's just leading you to the wrong destination. A story about Emma. Emma always believed she wasn't interesting enough. At parties, she stayed quiet. At work, she avoided sharing ideas. When friends invited her out, she often declined because she assumed they were inviting her out of pity. One afternoon, during a journaling exercise, she wrote down a memory she hadn't thought about in years. She was 8 years old. She had excitedly shown a drawing to an adult she admired. Without looking closely, they laughed and said, "Maybe art just isn't your thing." The comment lasted only a few seconds. But Emma carried it for decades. Without realizing it, she had begun believing that anything she created wasn't valuable. One careless sentence had become a lifelong belief. When she finally questioned that belief, something changed. Not overnight, but little by little. She started speaking up. She shared ideas at work. She accepted invitations. She stopped assuming rejection before it happened. Nothing around her changed first. Her belief did. And that changed everything else. How to challenge the lies. The next time a painful thought enters your mind, don't immediately believe it. Instead, become curious. Ask yourself a few simple questions. Who taught me this? When did I first start believing it? Is this objectively true? What evidence supports it? What evidence challenges it? If someone I loved believed this about themselves, what would I tell them? These questions won't erase years of emotional pain in a single afternoon. But they begin creating something incredibly powerful. Distance. Instead of becoming your thoughts, you begin observing them. That's where freedom starts. Planting new seeds. Remember the garden we talked about at the beginning of this chapter? Removing weeds is only half the work. You also have to plant something new. Every day, you have an opportunity to plant healthier beliefs. I am learning. I deserve kindness. My mistakes do not define me. I can grow. I can ask for help. I am stronger than I think. At first, these statements may feel uncomfortable. Your old beliefs will argue with them. That's okay. The oldest tree in the forest wasn't built in one day. Neither are new ways of thinking. Every time you choose truth over fear, you're planting another seed. Eventually, those seeds become roots. Those roots become habits. Those habits become a new way of living. A truth worth holding on to. Before we end this chapter, I want to leave you with one thought. You are not the voice that constantly criticizes you. You are not the fear that tells you to stay small. You are not the painful story your trauma has repeated for years. Those voices may have shaped your thinking, but they do not own your future. The moment you begin questioning the lies is the moment they begin losing their power. And once you've recognized those lies, a new question naturally arises. How do you replace them? How do you actually retrain your brain after years of thinking the same way? The answer is more hopeful than you might imagine. Because your brain is far more adaptable than you've been led to believe. That's exactly what we'll discover in the next chapter, where we'll explore how healing really happens and how you can begin rewiring your mind, one small step at a time. Chapter 4. Rewiring the Mind. How Healing Actually Happens. If you've made it this far, I want to pause for a moment and tell you something that I hope stays with you long after this audiobook is over. You are not reading this because you're weak. You're reading it because somewhere inside you, no matter how quiet that voice has become, there's still a part of you that believes healing is possible. Hold on to that part. It's stronger than you think. Because here's the truth. The brain that learned fear can also learn peace. The mind that learned to expect danger can learn to recognize safety. The heart that has been hurt can learn to trust again. Not overnight. Not without effort. But absolutely. That's not wishful thinking. It's how your brain was designed. Your brain is always learning. Imagine walking through a grassy field for the first time. There isn't a path yet, so every step takes effort. The grass brushes against your legs. Branches catch your clothes. You have to pay attention to where you're going. Now imagine walking that exact same route every day for 6 months. Eventually, the grass becomes flat. The dirt becomes visible. The path is obvious. Walking it becomes almost effortless. Your brain works the same way. Every thought you repeat. Every emotion you revisit. Every reaction you practice. You're creating a path. The more often you travel that path, the easier it becomes for your brain to follow it again. If you've spent years expecting rejection, your brain has built a well-worn trail toward fear. If you've spent years worrying about the future, Your brain has become incredibly efficient at imagining worst-case scenarios. The good news is this: you can build a new path. At first, it won't feel natural. It may even feel uncomfortable. That's because you're asking your brain to walk through tall grass again. But every step matters. Meet neuroplasticity. There's a scientific word for this ability. It's called neuroplasticity. Don't let the word intimidate you. The idea is actually very simple. Your brain is capable of changing throughout your entire life. For many years, scientists believed that once you became an adult, your brain was mostly fixed. Today, we know that's not true. Every time you learn something new, every time you practice a healthier habit, every time you respond differently instead of reacting automatically, your brain begins forming new connections. Think of your brain as a city full of roads. Some highways are enormous because they've been used for years. Others are tiny dirt roads that hardly anyone travels. Healing is the process of building new highways, not by destroying the old ones overnight, but by choosing the healthier road again and again until it becomes the easier one to travel. Why healing feels so slow? One of the biggest reasons people give up is because they expect healing to feel dramatic. They imagine waking up one morning completely free from anxiety. No fear. No painful memories. No overthinking. That expectation often leads to disappointment. Real healing usually feels much quieter than that. It's realizing you recovered from a stressful moment in 10 minutes instead of 2 hours. It's noticing that you spoke kindly to yourself after making a mistake. It's recognizing that you slept a little better this week than last week. It's saying no without apologizing 20 times. It's taking one deep breath before reacting. These moments may seem small, but small moments become big transformations. Imagine placing one brick on the ground. It doesn't look like much. Place another tomorrow, and another the next day. Months later, you've built a wall. Years later, you've built a home. Healing is built the same way. One small choice at a time. Your thoughts are habits. Most people think thoughts simply happen to them. But many thoughts are actually habits. If every morning begins with, "What if today goes wrong?" Eventually, your brain expects that question. If every mistake is followed by, "I'm such a failure," that thought becomes automatic. Automatic doesn't mean permanent. It simply means practiced. Here's an exercise I want you to try. The next time you notice a negative thought, don't fight it. Don't judge yourself for having it. Instead, gently ask, "Is this my present speaking? Or is this my past?" That one question creates space. And in that space, new choices become possible. Calm the body to calm the mind. Many people try to think their way out of anxiety. But anxiety doesn't begin only in your thoughts. It also lives in your body. Have you ever noticed that when you're anxious, your shoulders become tense? Your jaw tightens. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your stomach feels unsettled. Your body is telling your brain, "We're in danger." The amazing thing is that communication goes both ways. When you help your body feel safe, your brain begins receiving a different message. One of the simplest ways to do that is through slow, intentional breathing. Take a slow breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment. Then breathe out even more slowly. You're not just getting more oxygen. You're sending your nervous system a quiet message. We're okay. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't need perfect conditions. You carry one of your greatest healing tools with you every moment of every day. Your breath. The power of tiny habits. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to change everything at once. They decide they'll wake up at 5 in the morning. Exercise every day. Meditate for an hour. Read 2 books a week. Completely change their diet. Journal every night. Within a week, they're exhausted. Then they quit. Real change doesn't usually happen that way. Think about planting a tree. You don't pour 50 gallons of water on it in one day. You water it a little. Again tomorrow. Again next week. Again next month. Growth comes from consistency, not intensity. If all you can manage today is 5 minutes of quiet breathing, that's enough. If all you can do is write 3 sentences in a journal, that's enough. If all you can do is take a short walk around your neighborhood, that's enough. Never underestimate what small actions can become when they're repeated over time. Journaling, giving your mind somewhere to rest. Imagine trying to carry 10 grocery bags at once. Eventually, your arms become tired. Now imagine setting those bags down on the kitchen counter. The weight hasn't disappeared, but you're no longer carrying it. Journaling works in much the same way. When painful thoughts stay trapped inside your mind, they tend to circle endlessly. Writing them down creates distance. You begin seeing patterns. You notice fears you've been repeating for years. Sometimes the simple act of putting your thoughts on paper makes them feel less overwhelming. You don't have to write beautifully. No one else has to read it. Write honestly. That's enough. Hashtag gratitude doesn't ignore pain. Some people misunderstand gratitude. They think it means pretending everything is wonderful. It doesn't. You can be grateful and grieving, hopeful and hurting, strong and struggling. Gratitude simply reminds your brain that pain isn't the whole story. Maybe today you're grateful for the sunshine coming through your window, a warm cup of coffee, a friend's encouraging message, the sound of rain, a quiet evening. The more often your brain notices what's good, the easier it becomes to recognize hope alongside hardship. Sleep is emotional medicine. When life becomes overwhelming, sleep is often the first thing to suffer. Ironically, poor sleep makes anxiety even worse. Your brain needs rest to process emotions, organize memories, and recover from stress. Think of sleep as your brain's overnight cleaning crew. While you're resting, it organizes yesterday's experiences. It throws away what isn't needed. It strengthens what matters. Protecting your sleep isn't laziness. It's healing. Movement changes more than your body. You don't have to become a marathon runner. You don't have to spend hours in a gym. Simply moving your body sends a powerful message to your nervous system. A walk through the park. Stretching in the morning. Dancing in your living room. Cycling with a friend. Movement reminds your body that it was designed for more than survival. It was designed for life. Progress is rarely a straight line. Picture climbing a mountain. Sometimes the trail goes upward. Sometimes it levels out. Sometimes it even seems to go downhill before climbing again. If you judged your progress based on one difficult section, you might believe you were getting farther from the summit. But you're not. You're simply following the path. Healing works the same way. You'll have good weeks. You'll have difficult weeks. Old memories may resurface. Anxiety may visit again. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're human. Don't measure your healing by your hardest day. Measure it by your willingness to keep going. Becoming the gardener of your mind. Imagine your mind as a beautiful garden. Some flowers have already begun to bloom. Others are still seeds beneath the soil. Weeds will continue appearing from time to time. That's normal. The goal isn't to create a garden with no weeds. The goal is to stop watering them. Instead, water the habits that help you heal. Feed your mind with kindness instead of criticism. Choose patience over perfection. Celebrate progress instead of demanding instant results. Every healthy choice is another drop of water on the life you're trying to grow. One decision at a time. Before we finish this chapter, I want to leave you with one final thought. Healing is rarely one life-changing decision. It's thousands of small ones. Choosing to breathe instead of panic. Choosing to rest instead of pushing until you collapse. Choosing to speak kindly to yourself after making a mistake. Choosing to ask for help. Choosing to keep going, even when progress feels slow. These choices may not seem dramatic, but they quietly reshape your life. Day after day, week after week, year after year. And one morning, you'll wake up and realize something remarkable. The thoughts that once controlled you have become quieter. The fear that once followed you everywhere no longer leads your life. You'll still remember your past, but it won't be driving your future. That future begins with one decision, then another, then another. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the most difficult and most freeing parts of healing. We'll talk about letting go, not pretending the past never happened, not excusing the people who hurt you, but learning how to release the weight you've been carrying so that it no longer controls where you're going. Chapter 5. Discipline when you don't feel like it. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a quiet lake just before sunrise. The water is perfectly still. No wind. No waves. You pick up a small stone and toss it into the center of the lake. The splash lasts only a second, but the ripples keep traveling long after the stone disappears beneath the surface. Discipline works the same way. One small decision can create consequences that reach much farther than you ever imagined. The problem is that discipline has a terrible reputation. Just hearing the word makes some people think of punishment, strict rules, or living a joyless life. But that's not what real discipline is. Discipline isn't about making life harder. It's about making life better. It's choosing what you want most over what you want right now. That sounds simple. In reality, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Because your brain loves comfort. It loves shortcuts. It loves the familiar. If given the choice between watching another episode of your favorite show or going for a run, your brain will often whisper, "You deserve a break." If you sit down to work on an important project, another voice might say, "Check your phone first. It'll only take a minute." When the alarm rings early in the morning, that voice grows even louder. Just 10 more minutes. None of these thoughts make you weak. They make you human. Everyone hears them. The difference is that highly successful people don't let those voices make every decision. They've learned that feelings are wonderful servants but terrible leaders. Think about a captain steering a ship across the ocean. The weather changes constantly. Some days the sea is calm. Other days powerful storms appear without warning. If the captain changed direction every time the wind shifted, the ship would never reach its destination. Instead, the captain acknowledges the weather but keeps moving toward the chosen course. Your emotions are like the weather. Some days you'll feel inspired. Some days you'll feel tired. Some days confidence will fill your heart. Other days doubt will creep into your mind. Those feelings are real. But they don't have to decide your future. Your decisions do. One of the greatest myths about successful people is that they're always motivated. They're not. carrying yesterday into tomorrow. Imagine driving your car while staring only into the rearview mirror. How far would you get before something went wrong? Probably not very far. The rearview mirror has an important purpose. It helps you understand where you've been. But it was never meant to become your primary view. Your windshield is much larger for a reason. Life is lived looking forward. Trauma often keeps our attention fixed on yesterday. Healing gently teaches us to glance backward when necessary. But keep moving toward what's ahead. Your past deserves acknowledgement. It does not deserve permanent control over your future. The letter you'll never send. I'd like to invite you into a simple exercise. It may feel uncomfortable, but it has helped countless people begin releasing emotions they've carried for years. Find a quiet place. Take out a notebook or a blank sheet of paper. Write a letter to the person, situation, or even the version of yourself connected to your pain. Say everything you've never said. Write about the anger, the disappointment, the sadness, the confusion, the questions that were never answered. Don't worry about grammar. Don't edit yourself. Don't soften your words. This letter isn't for anyone else. It's for you. When you've finished, take a deep breath. Read it one final time if you wish. Then put it away. Some people tear it up. Some burn it safely. Some keep it in a journal. The important part isn't what you do with the paper. It's that you've finally given those emotions somewhere to go besides your own heart. Sometimes healing begins the moment we stop carrying conversations that only exist inside our minds. Learning to be kind to yourself. For many people, the harshest voice they hear isn't coming from someone else. It's their own. You criticize yourself for still struggling. You wonder why you're not over it. You compare your healing to someone else's. Imagine speaking to a close friend the way you sometimes speak to yourself. Would you tell them, "You're hopeless. You'll never change. You're too broken"? Of course not. You do offer compassion, patience, encouragement. So why not offer those same gifts to yourself? Self-compassion isn't self-pity. It's recognizing that healing happens more effectively in an atmosphere of kindness than one of constant criticism. The weight you were never meant to carry. There's an old story about a traveler who spent an entire train journey carrying his heavy suitcase on his shoulders. Another passenger finally asked, "Why don't you put it on the floor?" The traveler replied, "I didn't want the train to have to carry my luggage too." The story sounds almost ridiculous. Yet many of us do something very similar. We carry guilt that doesn't belong to us. We carry shame someone else placed on us. We carry responsibility for choices we never made. All the while, life is quietly asking, "Why don't you put it down?" You were never meant to carry every burden forever. Peace begins with small releases. Many people think letting go happens all at once. In reality, it often happens one small release at a time. You let go of one painful memory, then another. You release one unhealthy belief, then another. You forgive yourself for one mistake, then another. Healing isn't one dramatic moment. It's 1,000 quiet decisions to stop carrying what no longer serves you. A story about Michael. Michael spent years blaming himself for his parents' divorce. He was only 10 years old when it happened. As a child, he convinced himself that if he had behaved better, maybe they would have stayed together. That belief followed him into adulthood. Every failed relationship felt like confirmation that people always leave. During therapy, his counselor asked a simple question. What responsibility did a 10-year-old actually have for two adults' marriage? Michael sat in silence. For the first time, he realized he'd been carrying a burden that was never his to begin with. Nothing about his childhood changed. But everything about the way he understood it did. That realization didn't erase his pain. It released his shame. And sometimes, that's where healing truly begins. Choosing freedom. Before we end this chapter, I want you to imagine standing at the edge of a river. In your hands are stones. Each one has a word written on it. Fear, shame, anger, regret, bitterness, guilt. You've carried them for years. One by one, you begin dropping them into the water. The river doesn't erase your past. It simply carries away the weight you've been holding. That's what letting go really is. Not forgetting. Not pretending. Not denying. Choosing freedom over constant emotional captivity. And here's something beautiful. The lighter your heart becomes, the more room it has for joy, for hope, for love, for peace. In the next chapter, we'll bring everything together. You'll learn how to build a life where anxiety no longer sits in the driver's seat, where healing becomes part of your daily routine, and where every small choice moves you closer to the emotionally free life you've been searching for. Chapter 6. Building a life that anxiety can't control. Take a moment and think about the person you were when you started this audiobook. Maybe you arrived here feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you were exhausted from fighting the same thoughts every day. Maybe you were simply looking for one reason to believe that things could get better. Now think about everything we've explored together. You've learned that trauma doesn't define you. You've discovered that anxiety isn't your enemy. It has been an overprotective alarm system trying to keep you safe. You've uncovered the hidden beliefs that quietly shaped your decisions. You've seen that your brain is capable of changing and that healing isn't a destination you magically arrive at one day. It's something you practice. Now comes the most important question of all. How do you build a life where healing doesn't just happen occasionally, but becomes the way you live? The answer isn't found in one big breakthrough. It's found in ordinary days. Because ordinary days become extraordinary lives. The life you build is the life you live. Many people wait for life to change before they change their habits. I'll start taking care of myself when things calm down. I'll focus on my mental health after work gets easier. I'll make time for healing when I have more energy. But life rarely becomes less busy on its own. Healing doesn't happen after life slows down. It often begins because you decide to slow down, even when life keeps moving. Imagine building a house. You wouldn't begin with the roof. You'd start with the foundation. In the same way, emotional healing is built on simple daily practices that support your mind and body. These practices aren't exciting. They aren't glamorous. But they're powerful. Start every morning with intention. The first few minutes after you wake up matter more than you might realize. If the first thing you do is check social media or read stressful news, your nervous system immediately begins reacting to the world. Instead, create a peaceful beginning. Before reaching for your phone, pause. Take a slow breath. Then another. Ask yourself, how do I want to show up today? Not, what might go wrong today? Those are two very different questions. One creates fear. The other creates purpose. You don't need an hour-long morning routine. Even 5 quiet minutes can change the direction of your day. Stretch your body. Drink a glass of water. Open the curtains and let sunlight into the room. Read a few encouraging words. Pray if your faith is important to you. Sit quietly and breathe. You're telling your nervous system something important. Today begins with peace, not panic. Learn your triggers without letting them lead you. Everyone has triggers. A smell. Applause. A certain tone of voice. A crowded room. An anniversary. A song. A memory. Triggers aren't signs that you've failed. They're reminders that your nervous system is still healing. Imagine driving a car and seeing a road sign that says, "Sharp curve ahead." The sign isn't the danger. It's information. It gives you the opportunity to slow down and prepare. Your emotional triggers work the same way. Instead of saying, "Why am I like this?" try asking, "What is this feeling trying to tell me?" That small shift replaces self-judgment with curiosity. And curiosity creates space for healing. Protect your peace. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Not every argument deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves space in your mind. For years, you may have believed that protecting your peace was selfish. It isn't. Think about your phone battery. When it reaches 1%, you stop using unnecessary apps because you know the battery won't last. Your emotional energy works exactly the same way. Every unnecessary conflict, every toxic relationship, every hour spent comparing yourself to strangers online, every constant attempt to please everyone, they drain your battery. Protecting your peace means paying attention to what fills you and what empties you, then making choices accordingly. Surround yourself with safe people. Healing rarely happens in isolation. We all need people who make us feel seen. People who listen without trying to fix everything. People who celebrate our progress instead of reminding us of our past. Take a moment and think about the people in your life. Who leaves you feeling lighter after a conversation? Who leaves you feeling exhausted? Healthy relationships aren't perfect. They simply feel safe. Safe to be honest. Safe to make mistakes. Safe to disagree. Safe to grow. One encouraging friend is often more valuable than 100 acquaintances. Choose quality over quantity. Your inner voice becomes your companion. Imagine spending every day with someone who constantly criticized you. You'll never succeed. You're not good enough. You always mess things up. Eventually, you'd probably stop spending time with that person. Yet many people allow that voice to live inside their own minds. Healing means becoming aware of how you speak to yourself. Instead of saying, "I'm a failure," try, "I'm learning." Instead of, "I'll never get this right," try, "This is difficult, but I'm growing." The goal isn't fake positivity. It's honest encouragement. Speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you deeply love. Don't chase perfection. Perfection is a moving target. No matter how close you get, it always moves farther away. Peace works differently. Peace isn't found in having a perfect life. It's found in accepting an imperfect one. You'll still have difficult days. You'll still make mistakes. You'll still experience moments of anxiety. That doesn't mean you've gone backward. It means you're alive. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. Falling doesn't mean you'll never learn. It's part of learning. Healing works the same way. Don't expect yourself to never struggle again. Expect yourself to recover more quickly each time. That's real progress. Rediscover joy. Trauma has a way of convincing us that life is only about survival. Wake up. Get through the day. Go to bed. Repeat. But you were made for more than survival. You were made to experience joy. Not the kind of joy that depends on everything going perfectly. The quieter kind. The deeper kind. The joy of watching the sunrise. The laughter of a child. The smell of fresh coffee. A meaningful conversation. Music that touches your heart. A walk beneath the trees. A good book. A peaceful evening. These moments may seem ordinary. But ordinary moments are often where life quietly becomes beautiful again. Don't wait for a perfect future before allowing yourself to enjoy today. Move your body, nourish your mind. Your body and your mind are partners. When one suffers, the other feels it. You don't need an intense fitness program. Walk, stretch, dance, ride a bicycle, play with your children, work in a garden, Move because your body deserves care, not punishment. Feed your body foods that give you energy. Drink enough water. Protect your sleep. These simple habits may seem unrelated to emotional healing. They're not. A healthy body creates a stronger foundation for a healthier mind. Find meaning beyond your pain. One of the most beautiful parts of healing is discovering that your story doesn't end with what happened to you. It continues with what you choose to do because of what happened. Perhaps your experiences help you become more compassionate. Perhaps they make you a better parent, a more patient friend, a stronger leader, someone who notices when another person is quietly hurting. Pain can make us bitter, or it can make us kinder. You get to decide. Your scars may become the very reason someone else believes healing is possible. Celebrate small victories. Don't wait until every problem disappears before celebrating your progress. Celebrate the panic attack you recovered from more quickly. Celebrate the difficult conversation you handled calmly. Celebrate saying no without feeling guilty. Celebrate asking for help. Celebrate taking a walk instead of staying in bed all day. Celebrate choosing hope one more time. Every victory matters. Imagine filling a jar with one marble every time you made a healthy choice. One marble wouldn't seem impressive, but after a year, the jar would be overflowing. That's how transformation happens. One choice, then another, then another. A story 1 year later. Let's return to someone like Sarah, whom we met earlier in this audiobook. A year has passed. She still has stressful days. She still worries sometimes. But something has changed. She no longer believes every anxious thought. She sleeps better. She laughs more easily. She no longer apologizes for existing. She has learned to say no without carrying guilt for days afterward. She spends weekends hiking instead of hiding indoors. She has rebuilt friendships. She trusts herself again. When she looks back, she realizes something surprising. There wasn't one single moment that changed her life. There were hundreds of tiny moments. Choosing to breathe. Choosing to journal. Choosing to rest. Choosing to forgive. Choosing to keep going. Those choices quietly became a new life. And yours can too. Your future is being written today. Right now, your future isn't something waiting for you somewhere in the distance. You're creating it. With every habit, every thought, every decision, every act of courage, every moment of self-compassion. You don't have to know exactly where the road leads. You simply have to keep taking the next step. Remember the winding mountain trail we talked about earlier? When you're standing on the path, you can't always see the summit. Sometimes all you can see is the next few feet. That's enough. The mountain isn't climbed in one giant leap. It's climbed one faithful step at a time. Healing works exactly the same way. A final thought before we close. There will be mornings when you feel strong. There will be mornings when you don't. Keep going. There will be days when anxiety whispers. Answer it with truth. There will be moments when old memories return. Meet them with compassion instead of fear. Because every time you choose peace over panic, hope over despair, kindness over criticism, you become a little more like the person you were always capable of becoming. And one day, perhaps sooner than you expect, you'll look in the mirror and realize something extraordinary. The person staring back at you is no longer simply surviving. They're living. They're smiling more, trusting more, loving more, dreaming again. Not because life became perfect, but because they finally believed they were worthy of peace. In our final chapter, we'll bring everything together. We'll reflect on the journey you've taken, celebrate how far you've come, and leave you with a message of hope that you can carry with you long after this audiobook ends. Because this isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter in your life, one marked by courage, healing, and emotional freedom. Conclusion. Your story isn't over yet. If you've listened from the very beginning, I want to say something that I hope you truly hear. Thank you. Not for listening to this audiobook, but for choosing yourself. In a world that constantly tells us to keep moving, keep producing, and keep pretending everything is fine, you made a different choice. You stopped. You reflected. You opened your heart to the possibility that healing is still possible. That takes courage. More courage than most people realize. Think back to the first chapter. We began by talking about invisible wounds. The kind no one else can see. The kind that quietly shape the way we think, the way we love, the way we trust, and the way we see ourselves. Maybe, as you listened, you recognized pieces of your own story. Perhaps some chapters made you uncomfortable. Maybe certain memories came rushing back. Maybe you found yourself nodding in agreement, thinking, "That's exactly how I felt." If that happened, I hope something else happened too. I hope you realized that you are not alone. Pain has a strange way of convincing us that we're the only ones carrying it. It whispers. No one understands. No one would believe you. You're the only person who feels this way. But that's one more lie trauma likes to tell. Every single day, people all over the world are quietly fighting battles that no one else can see. The person smiling at work. The parent trying to stay strong for their children. The student sitting silently in the classroom. The neighbor waving as they collect their mail. Many of them are carrying stories they'll never tell. Just like you may have been. And yet, people heal. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because they decide they don't want pain to be the author of the rest of their story. That's the decision you've been preparing for throughout this audiobook. Not the decision to forget. Not the decision to pretend nothing happened. But the decision to stop letting yesterday control tomorrow. Remember what we've discovered together. Trauma is something that happened to you. It is not who you are. Anxiety is a response. It is not your identity. Your thoughts are influential, but they are not always truthful. Healing isn't perfection. It's practice. Every calm breath matters. Every healthy boundary matters. Every kind word you speak to yourself matters. Every time you choose hope instead of hopelessness, you're changing something inside your mind. Perhaps not dramatically. Perhaps not all at once. But steadily. Quietly. Powerfully. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest. Behind you is the path you've already walked. It wasn't easy. There were storms. Steep hills. Dark valleys. There were moments when you wanted to give up. But you're still here. Now look ahead. There's another path. You can't see every turn. You don't know every challenge waiting around the corner. But you also can't see the incredible moments waiting for you. The friendships you haven't built yet. The peace you haven't experienced yet. The confidence you haven't discovered yet. The mornings you'll wake up without fear being the first thing on your mind. Those moments are still possible. Never underestimate what 1 year of consistent healing can do. 1 year from today, your life could look completely different. Not because everything around you changed, but because something inside you changed. You learned to respond differently, to breathe differently, to think differently, to love yourself differently. Transformation rarely announces itself with fireworks. It often arrives quietly. One ordinary Tuesday, you realize you handled a stressful situation without panicking. One afternoon, you notice you laughed without forcing it. One evening, you catch yourself planning for the future instead of fearing it. Those moments may seem small, but they are proof. Proof that healing is happening. There will still be difficult days. Let's be honest about that. Some mornings you'll wake up feeling anxious again. Some memories will still hurt. Some setbacks will surprise you. When those moments come, don't tell yourself you failed. Healing is not a straight line. Think of the ocean. The tide moves in. The tide moves out. The waves rise. The waves fall. Yet the ocean keeps moving. So will you. Keep showing up. Keep breathing. Keep choosing the next right step. And if you ever forget everything else you've heard in this audiobook, remember these 5 truths. You are not broken. You are not alone. You are stronger than your fear. Your past does not have the final word. And healing is possible. Not because I say so. Because people prove it every single day. Maybe one day, you'll be one of those people encouraging someone else. Maybe someone will ask, how did you become so calm? How did you become so resilient? How did you find peace after everything you went through? And you'll smile, not because life was easy, but because you never stopped taking the next step. Before we say goodbye, I want to leave you with one final image. Imagine your life as a book. Some chapters were painful. Some were confusing. Some brought tears. If you had stopped reading after those chapters, you would have believed the story ended there. But it didn't. You're still writing it. Every decision you make, every habit you build, every act of courage, every moment of forgiveness, every choice to believe hope instead of fear. You're writing another page, another paragraph, another chapter. Don't let one painful chapter convince you the whole book is a tragedy. Some of the most beautiful stories begin with incredible hardship. Yours can too. As we come to the end of this audiobook, I want to thank you once again for allowing me to walk beside you on this journey. If this audiobook encouraged you, gave you hope, or helped you see yourself in a new light, I'd love to invite you to stay connected. Please take a moment to like this video. Leave a comment sharing the lesson that impacted you the most, and share it with someone who might need these words today. You never know how one simple act of sharing could become the encouragement that changes another person's life. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Better Mind Audio and turn on notifications so you don't miss future audiobooks designed to help you build confidence, strengthen your mindset, find emotional peace, and create the life you truly deserve. Until next time, be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Keep believing in your ability to grow. Keep taking one small step at a time. Because your story isn't over yet. In many ways, it's only just beginning.